welcome to the Steel Sports Show, the youth sports podcast. I'm your host, Martin Brown. Alongside me, as always, the voice of Steel Sports, Mr. Nathan Clinkenbeard. Nathan, how are you? How are things going? What have you been up to?
Doing well, Martin. Good to see you again. Good to be with you again on the Steel Sports Show. Always a good time. Always ready to dive into some interesting sports topics. I know we got a bunch of them today, but yeah.
What's going on in the sports world, right?
For sure. I mean, I know we're going to get into the World Series, but sad time for me. I'm as a big baseball fan with the season winding down and closing up. But look forward to spring training, coming up in a few months. But thought we had a fairly exciting series for the most part. Started off a little more exciting than other World Series, but I mean a fitting conclusion, I think, to the end of the season, and should be an interesting off season heading into 2025. What have you been up to?
I've been raking leaves. That's been a big thing for me in the last couple of weekends. Plenty of leaves falling down here in New Jersey, although it's been quite warm. Still waiting for a little bit of rain. Coming up, typically tomorrow, I know we're shooting this on Monday, the 4th of November, so I know tomorrow is election day here in the United States, but it's also bonfire night in my native UK. So unfortunately, this year, given the no rain, I'm not able to actually host bonfire night because there's no bonfires allowed in the state of New Jersey because of potential fire warnings. So it's looking up, but I know that October 28th was an interesting day. It was actually for my father's birthday, but I think they call it the sports equinox. We had almost every sport here in the US going on at the same time: NBA, NHL, MLS, the Major League Baseball, I think, and the NFL as well. So it was quite a day. I think it doesn't happen that often. So it was kind of cool to be able to see all those different sports and all of our young sports athletes being able to turn on the TV and watch pretty much any sport. So
it's one of those days where you get 2 TVs set up and
at least
as many games as you can on, and just veg out on the couch.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Well, I know for this episode we have a special guest with us, and I think we're gonna bring him in right away. He's a baseball mind for sure, but I know he can talk a little bit of soccer with us. Former major leaguer, made his debut with the Giants in 2014, which in fact they won the World Series title that year, so he got himself a ring. But also spent time in the Cardinals, the Angels organization. Played collegiately at Cal State Fullerton, and was a first-round draft pick in 2010. And importantly for us, he's the VP of Team Steel baseball and softball. Gary Brown, welcome to the show.
Wow. Thank you, guys. Quite the introduction, Nathan. Thank you. I don't deserve that.
Oh, stop. It's good to have you on. I know we're going to jump into some soccer topics. And just before I ask Martin, what's going on in the world of soccer, tell us a little bit about your soccer background.
Yeah. So soccer was my second sport growing up. So I played ASO in Walnut, and I don't remember the exact ages, but I played all the way up through high school, and I finally stopped playing my junior season to focus on just baseball. It was an awesome sport. I like to joke, I always had the gift of speed, but I was not blessed with the gift of touch. So my cinder block feet did not allow me to take soccer very far. It was just kick it over my head and run. But I do love the sport, and I really enjoy watching it. And we're blessed with MLS, but I have never experienced the show that Martin grew up in the Premier League. One day I will get to see that.
It's worth it.
You just described my soccer career to a T. That's it would put me at forward, and they would just say, "We're just going to kick the ball and you run and go get it." And try to score.
Yeah. I would hover at the half line, just going laterally until someone saw me, and then whoop.
Your job is to stay on sides.
Exactly. Yeah, and that was hard in itself.
Well, it's good to have you on. Huge news in the world of soccer, I mean, you never like seeing managers get sacked, right? But I mean, maybe Martin does, especially with the team that it happened to. But Ten Hag sacked at Manchester United. Man, I mean, what, 11 years, I think, now that Alex Ferguson has been gone, and it just seems like no one's been the right fit.
10th manager, I think, now, Manchester United. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, he was kind of a dead man walking all the way from the summer. They courted a few different coaches around Europe. Didn't obviously get, the person they wanted, so kind of came back to Ten Hag and said, we'll keep you. He won the FA Cup, which I think was a big part of through kind of a wrench in the works, I think, of the upper echelon management at Manchester United. I think they would have liked, if they'd lost that FA Cup final, I think they would have got rid of him at the end of the season. They kind of went half in, had a look around Europe. Was there anyone better, that could come in and do a job? They didn't think there was, or if they did, there was, people that didn't want the job. So I ended up staying with him, and it's been constant talk since match day one, really, of how long is he going to last, and is it this week? Is it this week? Is it this week? And obviously, it turned out it was, this week. But they moved pretty quickly to replace him. Ruben Amorim from Sporting Lisbon's coming in. Starts next Monday. A week from today, when we actually record the show, and I know that he is somebody that Liverpool had looked at before selecting Arne Slot. So great pedigree, worked under Jose Mourinho. Young manager, very well thought of, and it'll be interesting because we've kind of heard this before with Manchester United managers. Mourinho's coming in, or Van Gaal's coming in, and and Ollie, living legend at United's coming in, and then Ten Hag is this tactician that's coming in from Ajax, and it doesn't seem to work. And I think there's probably more wrong with the club than just the manager. But we'll see. We will see. It'll be interesting. I think the interesting thing is, and he spent now, I think, nearly £750 million on players in his couple of years he's been there. They've got some massive contracts of players that I don't rate. And what's going to happen to the new manager coming in? Is he going to be able to get rid of those players? Is he going to be told he has to work with these players because we spent so much money and they're not his players? And so it's going to be interesting. We'll certainly see when he comes in. The Premier League is notoriously one of the most difficult leagues to be a head coach in. Not only the English media, which is tough, the competition. He's coming from Sporting Lisbon, where there's probably Porto, Benfica, and Sporting Lisbon are the top three teams, and they should beat everybody else. That doesn't happen in the Premier League, as we've seen. Over the last couple of weekends since we were last on. I don't know what it is, Nathan, but you suddenly become a Bournemouth fan, and they take a point off Aston Villa with an excellent 1-1, and then a great victory against Arsenal this past the weekend before as well, and really collecting a lot of points on a good run. One again this weekend, and as soon as you became a fan, they seem to have been moving forward. So
took what, a 2-1 win over Manchester City.
Yeah.
I'm sure you were a big Bournemouth fan over the weekend.
Yeah, I was a huge Bournemouth fan over the weekend. So when it was 2-0, I was going back and forward between watching the Liverpool games at the same time and the Bournemouth game. And it was, when City got back in at 2-1, you thought, City are going to do City and they'll come out with a point. They haven't played well, but they're still got a point. But Bournemouth hung on, and they're having a great little run right now. Really are. So I think. A good point a couple of weekends ago against Aston Villa, beating Manchester City. It's a nice little run right now. And, obviously last weekend as well, we saw the big game of the weekend was 2-2. Great game. I don't know if you caught the Arsenal-Liverpool game. Really, really intense game. But, coming into this weekend, it was interesting there. Arsenal lost in the morning against Newcastle. At one point, City were 2-0 down and Liverpool were 1-0. down, and it's you thought, looking at the Premier League, you're thinking, that doesn't often happen. It just shows again how competitive it is. But Liverpool, of course, which I'm very, very happy about. There was a nice loud scream around the 71st minute when Mo Salah in my house, when Mo Salah put that one in the top corner and gave Liverpool a 2-1 win, goes to the top of the table. But for me, that the other big talking point over the last couple of weeks is Nottingham Forest's rise under Espirito Santo. I mean, they have, Chris Wood, I think I said, I scored 8 goals for Nottingham Forest this year, which is, I think, one less than the entire Manchester United team has scored so far this year, to kind of tell you where Ten Hag, and probably one of the reasons Ten Hag is actually gone. But their rise is really, moving forward. I mean, great win against West Ham, although West Ham were down to 10 men. That changed the game a little bit. But I think you've really got to keep your eyes. And if you assume that City, Liverpool, and Arsenal are going to be in that top 3, which is pretty good bet, I would guess, unless something drastically changes, there's going to be a great run for that 4th spot with, you assume United get a bit of a bounce with Amorim. You've got Chelsea, Newcastle obviously won against Arsenal. Forest are up there. Spurs, came back to beat a very good Aston Villa team yesterday, 1-0 down, and came back to win 4-1. So, lots going on in the Premier League, and but as I said, the big thing is I think we definitely need some sort of banner behind you with.
I have 2 weeks. It's got to be done for the next episode.
Yeah. Of course, though, if they then start to lose games, then that's you might jinx it a little bit. We'll see.
I know, then and I might have to take it down, but yeah. Regardless, I need to show my fandom. Gary, I don't know if you have a Premier League team, but you're always welcome to join on the Bournemouth bandwagon with myself if you want.
Well, it's funny. My stepbrothers are actually very, very big Premier League fans. My stepdad is Dutch. And so I don't know what's the Dutch team. All I know is they're orange.
Yeah, the national team's definitely orange. Yeah,
but I know they all have. Is it Tottenham? I believe one of them.
Tottenham's got a couple of Dutch players. At Liverpool, got a Dutch manager. Arne Slot is Dutch. You got Van Dijk, Gakpo, Gravenberch all play for the Dutch national team, playing at Liverpool. So I mean, I not to sound biased at all, but if they're going to probably pick Liverpool, seeing as there's a few Dutch players.
Yeah, so I tend to lean wherever the Dutch players are. I get dragged into rooting for them. But yeah, my stepbrothers are really, really into the Premier League, and when we were younger and we all lived together, I'd wake up to them watching the game at 6 a.m. in Cali, and stumble out into the living room.
Yeah, that's it. We obviously big Premier League fans here on the show, but we've got the MLS playoffs going on as well. They've been quite exciting. Atlanta sneaked into the playoffs from the Eastern Conference with a penalty shootout win over Montreal, and after losing that first game to Inter Miami, I think most people thought that they were going to be done, but came back 2-1 victory in the second game, leveling that series, and now going now they're one game of going through, or I think more surprisingly to people is that Inter Miami could be one game from going out. I think that would be a shock. Everyone's favorite, obviously great record in the regular season, and they'll meet in Miami on November 10th for that third game of the best 3 series. But the other big news I thought was New York Red Bulls stunning the defending champions with a decisive win, and obviously Game 2 will take place on November 5th in Columbus, and they now have got a little bit of an uphill battle to advance to the next round. So definitely keeping our eyes on the MLS playoffs, and there's been some surprises that have happened, and it's been quite exciting. Don't you think, Nathan?
Yeah, already been a little chaotic. I mean, we already have the 1 seeds on the brink of getting knocked out in that first round, and I mean, what do you think? I mean, what kind of pressure does that put on Miami and LAFC? I mean, especially for Miami winning the Supporters Shield, they're far and away the top team. It's a lot of pressure now in that third game, and I mean, Atlanta's going to, they're playing with house money.
Atlanta's nothing to lose, right? Yeah, they've got nothing to lose. It's a 1 game, win and in, and they've they can go in relaxed, no pressure on them. All the pressure's on Miami, given that they won the Supporters Shield, particularly with that record. Players they've got, they're expected to go on and win, I think, the whole thing. So then to be dumped out in round one would be a huge shock, and it really would be a very disappointing end to the season. And it really would be, it would be a poor return, I think, for the money that they've spent and what they've done to throughout the season. I think it would be a poor return if they do get knocked out. But we'll see. They are home. They'll have the crowd behind them, and we'll see how they portray. And obviously, I think the same for LA as well. Probably favourites going in, and we'll see how they rebound and get through if they can get through to the next round as well. So it's definitely set up. I mean, I don't know. These best of three series, it's not my favorite. I mean, yes, I come from England originally, and I'm probably a bit of a purist, and I understand the nature of the playoffs in US sports and those rulings. I just don't see the benefit of having the 3 games. I mean, and particularly as no overtime, straight to penalty shootouts. It doesn't, for me, it just doesn't encourage a team like Atlanta, say, where they're coming up against the Supporters Shield winners, teams that have a great record. It doesn't encourage you to go out and beat them. It really encourages you to say, hey, if you can get a 0-0, put a low block on, players behind the ball, get 0-0, win on penalties. You can go through without being the best team. I'm not a big fan of the best of 3. I understand, why they do it. More games, more money, more TV money, more gate money. I get that, but for me, you could win the first game, 10-0, and lose on penalties in the next 2 games with a team that just sits back and doesn't play, and you're out. And to me, that's not promoting great soccer. So I'm not a big fan of the I would say of the best of 3 series, if you haven't already can tell by that. But I would like to see, if you want to do that, I'm fine. Just do a home and home, and do an aggregate score, encourage teams to score goals, and give the higher seed the choice of whether they want to play home first or home second, and decide what they want to do. But we'll see how they pan out. And I think after these, once all these games are done and we're kind of done with the MLS season, it'll be interesting to see how those attendances are, the viewership of the playoffs, are as well. And, that game 3, I'm assuming, Miami, Atlanta is going to attract some eyes, but if it was just a one game and done, would it have attracted even more? I don't know. We'll see. But it's the way they're doing it, and we'll respect that, and we'll move forward with it. But it's not a big. I'm not a big fan of it.
Yeah, I mean, we could probably devote an entire show on the MLS playoff format. After you and I had a good spirited discussion, a few days ago. But I mean, I feel like there are too many teams in the playoff.
I completely agree. I think
the 29 teams, it's over 60% of the teams make the playoffs, and just goes on a little bit too long. I think it could be condensed a little bit, even with the home and home aggregate. And
I agree.
Yeah.
There's really no need to have that many teams make the playoffs. It really, again, it makes a bit of a mockery of the whole season. You play for that whole season. You're starting in early spring. You play until October, and you can have a pretty terrible season and still make the playoffs and make a run. And again, I'm not a big fan of that in the soccer world. But that's what it is. We'll see.
Not to say that MLS is rooting for anybody, but I think they'd be happy if Messi and Miami continue on.
Switching gears, I think it's the same. MLS will be super happy that Messi and Miami do move on. I think very similar to how Major League Baseball will probably be very happy that the Dodgers moved on over the Mets and avoided a Subway Series that would have been good in this New York area, but I'm not sure the rest of the country would have tuned in. Obviously, then we got the Dodgers, Yankees set with those superstars on show. So I think Major League Baseball will probably be rooting for that. But I don't know. we're probably a little disappointed in how that series went. I think they could have liked to have gone all 7, I think, and seen it, but it didn't. Yeah, we'll switch to baseball, and obviously we've got Gary on as a World Series winner himself. So what was Nathan, starting with you? What was your take on the World Series and how it finished up?
Yeah. Oh, is that me or Nathan? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Nathan.
No, I just briefly. I mean, I was glad that those two teams were in the World Series. I thought they were the two best teams. But yeah, I mean, part of me was a little disappointed it didn't go the full 7. I don't think the stars like Ohtani and Judge were fully on display. I know Shohei got injured with his shoulder. Judge finally kind of broke out though in that 5th game. I mean, you could even tell, I think, in Game 4 his swing was coming back. I mean, he was having good at bats. He walked a couple times, had some good swings, and then in Game 5, hit that home run to the opposite field with power, like you see Aaron Judge. So I really thought he was kind of rounding back into the Aaron Judge that we saw throughout the regular season, and that's why part of me was just kind of hoping we'd get to that Game 6 and go back to LA, and then I think the series would have been really on at that point. But yeah, I mean, I think the two best teams, and at the end of the day, the Dodgers, they were tough all season long, and I think we saw the depth that they had in their lineup 1 through 9, and even the bullpen that they had. I think they're very deserving world champions. What about you, Gary?
Yeah, I have a similar take, and also with the playoffs, Martin, I share that feel with baseball. You play 162, and out of 30 teams, I think 14 got in. It's as a former player, I know I was joking, before. 1-1 seeds don't usually meet in the World Series anymore. So it was nice to see both 1 seeds make it to the World Series, because it's usually the hottest team gets in and the hottest team wins it. So from that take, it was awesome to see. And then I thought it was really cool to see the Dodgers win, a legit World Series. They've been dominant for 10 years. And to only have the COVID one, obviously the Houston scandal, they kind of got robbed of that one. So it was nice to see, because right now in Major League Baseball, the Dodgers are, the apple of everyone's eye. They have found a way to maximize payroll, to draft well, to develop well. They sign all the free agents. You've got guys like Muncy and Justin Turner in the past that came over on minor league deals that bloom into superstars. And that's what every organization wishes they could do. They dominate on the free agent side. They dominate in development. They dominate internationally. They dominate in the draft. Corey Seager back years ago was like a 24th pick in the first round. So 23 teams passed on him. Guys like that. Will Smith was another one. He's one of the best catchers in the game, and they don't miss. So it was really cool to see the Dodgers do so well. Even if you look at their injured list. Of all their players they had injured, it was pretty impressive to touch on Nathan's comment on depth. And as for the Yankees, it was nice to see them finally get over the hump and get there. But I think the Yankees, and this might be a hot take, they're, in my opinion, kind of where the game has gone. And it's a bit of a disappointment in terms of they do all the loud, cool things really well, but they don't play the game very well. All the fundamentals, the taking the extra base, the hustling out of the box, the playing good defense, the ball and dirt reads, throwing to the right base, making accurate throws, the little things that add up that each 90 feet. They didn't do a very good job of that, and all year they did, but they had the superstars, and Soto and Judge and other guys, and I think I want to give some love too. I know that Judge and Ohtani were the main dishes. But God, I love watching Mookie Betts. And it's guys like that, they show up in the playoffs because they're plate discipline. He walks more than he strikes out. He puts the ball in play. He plays hard. He does all the little things right. So I think it's awesome to see the Dodgers who blend analytics and scouting like they do with player development. It's no wonder that they are where they are right now. So it's really cool to see And I know a lot of people around baseball were happy to see them win as well, because it is a good marriage in this world of analytics and gut feel and experience where there's sometimes clashing.
But it's funny you mentioned the fundamentals. Obviously, the big thing, game 5-0 up. Do you think, as obviously as a former player yourself, do you think they'll be kicking themselves even more because of the way that Game 5 went? The 5-0 up, and then as you said, you had pitcher not covering first base. You had judges, dropping the ball. You had the third base play that they couldn't bring in. So those fundamentals that you said that eventually win championships. So do you think obviously nobody wants to lose a World Series? Do you think it hurts a little bit more when it's in that way, when you're kind of thinking, we're going to go back to LA, we're on a bit of a roll, 3-0 down, we could be going 3-2, and it's all to play for, and it kind of just fizzled out. Do you think they'll get kind of a hangover of that?
Oh, 100%. I think timely that Netflix put out that documentary with the Red Sox, right, just recently, but which speaks to how hard it really is to come back from 3-0, because not only are you have to win 4 games, but the other team has to lose 4 games, which it's not common to do, especially a World Series team. But yeah, that's going to suck because Garrett and I grew up in the same region. Garrett went to UCLA. We faced him in college. I faced him in minor leagues. Garrett's always been a dominant pitcher, and to me, this was really fun to watch as Garrett was in complete dominance of the game. Mm-hmm. And I thought, wow, this is going to be it. This is going to be Garrett's masterpiece. This will be his legacy when, years from now, when they talk about Garrett Cole's legacy and his career that he's had, and hopefully a Hall of Fame career, that they're going to go back to this game. It's going to be a perfect game. He stepped up. He dominated. He walks a guy. No big deal. That's going to happen. Okay. He's still going to throw this beautiful no-hitter. All of a sudden, I can't remember if Judge's error came first or the error at third, but you could feel it just changing, and then he forgets to cover first. He was, guessing rather than, playing it out, and he'll be kicking himself for that. And it was a bummer because that was what, you pay a guy like that to go in and do. And it's going to hurt so much more because like you just said, it seemed like Judge was figuring it out. Soto's always having good at-bats. All of a sudden, the bottom of the order is being productive. It was like, oh, wow, this is going to get really interesting. It's going to be 3-2. They're going to head back to L.A. So it 100% hurts, regardless of whether they would have won it or not. Like, the odds are against them. But, yeah, that's going to sting. Whenever you just want to play another game, and the goal was, hey, next at-bat, one more game, win this pitch, win this out. And when it starts to just crumble like that, you can't help but look around and be like, what just happened?
Let's go back to Game 1. Game 1, I think, probably goes down as one of the all-time greats in terms of World Series games. Where would it rank for you? In terms of watching that game and seeing it become tied, and then the Yankees take the lead, and then obviously Freeman's grand slam walk off to win it. So many emotions up and down, but for you, where does that one rank?
Yeah, gosh, as much as I just kind of poo-pooed on the playoff system, it has given us some awesome moments in recent years, and it reminded me a lot of the series between the Astros and Dodgers, where it was like you couldn't believe it. It was home run after home run after home run after home run, and it was unbelievable. Just that it's the corniness of it, right? You really picture yourself in those situations as a kid. You goof around. I know my son now, he grabs the ball in the house and he hits it off the wall, and 3-2, bottom of the ninth, and all the things that we all did. And it was really cool too, because Freddie is a SoCal kid, and everybody knows about the Kirk Gibson home run if you grew up in SoCal, and for that to happen in the World Series to a SoCal kid, a lefty as well, that was a pretty special thing, especially, they bring in the lefty to face him. It's one pitch, boom, gone, game over. Those are things you can't really believe when they're happening. I was fortunate enough to go on our little run, and there's a moment for me as well that we had similar, and like I could get the hairs on my arms will stand up every time I think about it. But those moments are just like, wow, did that really just happen? And euphoric is like an understatement. So that's pretty cool. And it's just that moment that it's acceptable to scream like a maniac, and 80,000 people at Dodger Stadium or whatever the number is doing it. It's pretty cool.
I mean, you had that moment in game one, euphoric, right? And then you have a moment of just disbelief in game four when you have Mookie Betts running over, catching that foul ball against the railing, and two fans grabbing his glove, grabbing his arm, yanking it out. You're watching and you're like, is this real life? Is this actually happening? Have you ever seen anything like that in your baseball career?
No, it's funny because I always joke, you got to love the fans, but man, are they bold. That's a bold move. I think a lot of people forget too, Mookie, is probably the one exception. There's a few in baseball that are like, probably you're my size, your size or my size. And, the likes of Aaron Judge or Stanton, someone does that. It's, they get up on him. It's like, oh my gosh, that's a big man. But yeah, it is pretty funny. Like, I think it's the fact that the Dodgers won. There was no really harm. The umpires saw it. It was no love lost. It was just, you roll your eyes. It's the Yankees fans, but it is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Like, come on, man. Like, what are we doing? Like, it's like they wanted their moment to like become a meme or whatever it is, and hey, they got it. Like, okay, they get their 10 seconds of fame, but yeah, it's not what it used to, right? Derek Jeter goes into the stands. Now, mind you, it was Jeter at Yankee Stadium, and everybody helps him out, Now they're dumping beer on you, sucker punching you. It's a little much.
It could be a metaphor for a larger conversation of where maybe society might be in terms of respect and of things, of institutions and players and celebrities and athletes and stuff. So yeah, it was certainly surprising to see it. It's something I don't think you'd have seen 10, 15 years ago at all. It wouldn't have even entered a person's head. But yeah, it's but I know we're you talked a little bit about your son. I know the son picking up the ball and talk about fundamentals. Talk a little bit about what do you think the youth baseball players that are listening in here that they could take away from that World Series? Obviously you mentioned fundamentals, but what other things can they take away from as a learning to improve their own game? As they pretend to be, Freddie Freeman in the bottom of the game there, hitting that grand slam.
Yeah, I think probably the overarching theme is that these young kids, it's fun to copy what's on TV, but it's a whole different game on TV. I think as a coach, as a dad, as a former scout, a player, it frustrates me to see some of the younger kids think that they are big leaguers. I think you got to earn that and you got to work towards that. So I think when I say that, I mean, when you hit the ball, you run hard. When you make a mistake, you run after it and you finish the play. You do the little things, preparation, right? Pre-pitch preparation. For example, that play that Volpe had at short, tough play, like, takes him in the 4-hole or the 5-hole, and all his only plays at third. He bobbles it because he doesn't backhand it. He tries to square it up, and he has to rush the throw, and he throws it straight in the dirt, and it kicks away. Chisholm can't get the ball. So it's stuff like that. I think that, the game itself is – kids these days, I think, are focused on my tools and not my skills. And I'll give you an example. I'm going to go back to my scouting days. When you're at an event and you're practicing throwing across the diamond, it frustrates college recruiters, scouts, everybody in the stands when we see a guy field a ground ball at the back of the dirt at the cutout with the outfield, shuffle, 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 crow hop, throw as hard as humanly possible, throw it straight to the stands, and then they'll see a 90 on it and they'll go, yes! But it doesn't play in the game. And so it's stuff like that. So fundamentals are by far the thing that needs the most practicing. And that's, like I said, pre-pitch preparation and base running are probably two of the most important. And I can't preach how well and how good it is to watch Mookie Betts, but plate discipline, Aaron Judge, I love him. He's one of my favorite players. I love how hard he plays. But it is frustrating. He's cut down his strikeout numbers, but it is frustrating to see so many strikeouts. Now, he makes up for it because if he touches the baseball, it's like a cheat code. It's just a home run. And he's almost hitting 60 every year now. But he's the exception. And I think some of it is that boys, you got to work towards that. Boys and girls at home, that you want to be in the big leagues and be on TV. Everyone forgets how long they've been doing it and how much they've been working at it and all that goes into it behind the scenes. That's the finished product. So, you want to be there, get to work, and it comes internally. It's not something that any coach or any parent or any amount of money will get you. It comes down to the internal fortitude and how bad do you want it.
Yeah, I completely agree. We had Bobby Valentine on our show last time out, and we talked to him a little bit about Ohtani and obviously the incredible talent that he is, and nobody can can be like him. But I think the piece that I took away from that was how hard he still works, day in and day out in the off season. I understand, obviously completing the 50-50 this year, but my understanding is that in this offseason, he just worked and worked and worked on his base running, and it shows. Now, obviously, he's an exceptional talent that people aren't going to, natural talent that people aren't just going to emulate. But the work that he still puts in is certainly incredible as well. And I think you're 100% right. And I think you're a good example of it. And we're delighted to have you on the show. I know that. You recently have just written an article as part of the Beyond the Game series here at Steel Sports, how baseball changed a life. Really enjoyed reading your article, and we're going to have that in the bio, and it'll be released when the podcast drops on Wednesday, the 6th of November here. So really enjoyed reading. It's a heartfelt reflection of your life in growing up in a challenging environment in Southern California. Your parents were divorced. You were raised by your grandparents, and obviously, despite some financial hardships, baseball became that sanctuary for you, and offering an escape and personal growth, and putting your internal hard work that you just talked about to work. And you had numerous successes, including playing on top travel teams, high school recognition, getting a scholarship to Cal State Fullerton, and then obviously being drafted by the Giants, and then ultimately winning a World Series, and then staying within the game and still in the game. So it's a great read. I encourage everyone to take a read of Gary's story. But can you take us back a little bit to how did baseball first become an interest, an escape for you, for you as a child?
Yeah. So, I can always just remember that it was my favorite sport. And I know my dad, so my mom played softball in high school. So my parents married very young, and then divorced shortly after. And so, my older brother, myself, my younger sister, and then later my little brother came. And I just remember playing t-ball at Rowland Heights Little League, and just absolutely loving it. And, I don't know. I can't speak to, I don't have memory at that age of practicing a ton or anything, but I always remember having a ball, and my dad does talk about rolling the ball to me, when I was really little. And then all I ever wanted to do was play catch. And, whether it was my grandpa, my mom, my dad, whoever it was. And it just was something I always really enjoyed, and it came naturally. And so, once I got bit by that bug, it's all, I would sleep in my uniform, as a kid. I'd sleep with my bat. I'd even have my cleats running around the house. So it was just one of those things that I'm so happy to have found what I love to do at such a young age. And I think that's something, the overarching theme, I think, of my article that I wrote, in my story. And I try to share with any kid that I have the pleasure of meeting or coaching or being a part of their sports journey, it's not really about what the sport is or what the extracurricular is. It's what is it, find it, love it, and work towards it. And I think it's just so important for children to have that, some sort of outlet. And, I kind of got off topic here. You can steer me back, Martin. But it really is just finding your passion and going towards that and enjoying that every day. Because it just makes, like we said, some of my struggles in my youth seem pointless, or you forget about them. And the challenges within each game you learn to apply to real life, and that's what I loved about my sports journey.
What was the impact that your coaches had on you, from all levels, really, from youth all the way to the pros? Yeah,
so it's funny. Travel ball is not what it is today, or was not what it was today back in the 90s when I first started playing. And I was very fortunate that, I had pony leagues that worked with my mom that were able to make, half payments or whatever it was. And I had some coaches that the first team I played on, that they were, in a good financial position, that they paid for myself. And that really allowed me to go out and play and have fun. And, at the youth level, and I think it's common, and it's something I think we do a good job here at Steel, but it's common throughout the country of, a coach and a lot of times a dad only has so much ability, depending upon when they stop playing, to coach at a certain age. And I would say my first impactful coach I had really didn't come until, my dad was big, helping me out in baseball at an early age. And then my first impactful coach was probably not until high school, that I had a coach that really challenged me in Rich Gonzalez. He's still there now. He's not coaching anymore at Diamond Bar High School, but and it wasn't anything that he taught me. It was more the mindset and his expectations of, I think he saw the potential in me that I even didn't see. A lot of times, kids who are talented, they think they've made it. And that's kind of something I touched on earlier with the youth today. And I think I was in a similar boat that, I had some talent and I thought I was good. But, a coach and a coach like Rich Gonzalez that I had, we called him Gonzo, he'd seen a lot of baseball and he knew what was out there. And so he knew that there was more potential. And so he was the first one to really push me and challenge me. And it really helped my game. I went from, I tore my ACL my freshman year, so I didn't play my freshman year. And then I was fortunate to make varsity my sophomore year. And I continued to improve so much so that my senior year, I was able to get drafted by the A's in the 12th round. I was an All-American in high school. I did all the cool things. There was, I don't want to make this like a bragging show. So it was really cool. And then when I got to college, there was another coach that Greg Bergeron. He's now coaching actually softball at Oklahoma State. But him and I early we butted heads, probably for the same reasons as he wanted to push me. And I had certain ways of doing things that got me success, but he had a lot of success in coaching and understood that there was more in there. There was more in the tank. And by no means would I say I stepped on campus a first-round draft pick. And credit to Sergio Brown and Greg Bergeron and Dave Serrano were my coaches. They really pushed me and helped me grow, not only, like I said, preparation pre-pitch, slowing the game down, but honing my skills to become talent and to become our tools to become skills. Because there's a lot of kids, that they are very talented, very athletic, a lot of tools, but they just don't know how to use them. And so that's the difference between the tools and the skills is marrying those. And that's what the big leaguers are. They're all the guys with the tools and the skills. So for me, it's I tell kids to, with coaches, it's a balance, it's a dance. And anyone who's coached understands this. How hard do you push them, or how much grace do you give them? And finding that balance, because the problem is when coaches stop talking to you, and that you really want to be worried. When they're pushing you, it's a good thing. And, kind of to fast forward to my pro career, that's kind of what happened is I really got pushed and there was friction again. And then I stopped getting talked to. And then it was like, oh boy, this ain't good. And at the end of my career, that's what had happened. They moved on to focus on to other players. And so if there is any kids listening, hey, it's a good thing. Coach cares if they're on you and they maybe see something that you don't.
And obviously, after after your professional, career, you stayed kind of within the sport, and still do. And it's something we talk about with our athletes at Steel Sports around the country, is that developing this passion for the sport, right? And at some point, maybe you're not going to be like yourself, a college athlete or a professional player, but have a passion for a sport that you want to stay in, whether you coach or so. Obviously, after you finished playing, you stayed within the game. So talk a little bit about that transition, from playing the game, and then obviously you love the sport so much. It's been a huge part of your life growing up, the support of your grandparents, your mother, and your father, etc., and really all those challenges you went through to get to a point where you made the major leagues, we won a World Series, and then kind of your professional career, playing career came to an end. You'd obviously developed this passion for the sport and wanted to stay in. So talk a little bit about that transition and the other opportunities within baseball, that maybe one day the kids that are listening here that are playing baseball now, will see that they have that opportunity.
Yeah. So as you're seeing today, most front offices in baseball are filled with guys who didn't play professionally or only played in high school. And there are tons and tons of opportunities, and front offices keep growing and growing and growing and growing. So, when I finished playing, all I've ever really known is baseball. So there was no other thought other than, man, I gotta stay in baseball. I just didn't know in what capacity. So I actually, when I finished playing in 2017, I was in independent ball, and I left. We found out my wife was pregnant, and when I left, we found out it was twins. And so she came to visit me, about 2 or 3 months later, and she gets off the plane and she was showing, and I was like, holy crap, this is real. And so shortly after, unfortunately for me, I had some back issues. And so my back went out, and I tried to rehab, and it just didn't work out. So I went home and tried to rehab, and it didn't work out. So I quit, and I moved past that. It was time to come home. And so I went and got my master's degree at Arizona State, my master's in sports law and business. It's an excellent program there to help, people like myself who wanted to stay in sports and further education in that way. And it was awesome because it bought me a little time. It helped improve my skills on the administrative side and kind of the business side of sports in general. And so after that, I got an internship in the front office with the Mariners. And so my wife and I, which again, I look back, it was kind of a crazy, bold thing. I can't believe we did it, but we have a 5-month-old twins. We sell our house and we moved to Seattle for an internship. And we end up staying right there, right next to the Ballard Locks in the heart of Seattle, and just on a whim on an internship that wasn't guaranteed. So I went through the summer in Seattle, had a great time. The Mariners were really good to me. I had access to all kinds of information. It was just a free opportunity to ask questions and fail. And that's what I tell kids, especially in the internship. If you're ever in an internship, it's a free pass to fail. Try everything, ask questions. And so it was huge. So I really got to see the flow of information, how it worked, and how analytics departments work, how baseball ops departments work, how the scouting departments intertwine. And so from there, I sent my resume out to 30 clubs, and decided that scouting was the way I wanted to go. And I happened to have the scouting director in Seattle was best friends with the scouting director in New York at the time with the Mets. And I ended up getting a job and moving to Texas from there. So, we bounced from Seattle. I went back home to California, waited for a couple months to figure out what we were doing, then hopped in a U-Haul and drove out to Texas and started scouting. And so what was really fun about scouting is, the foundation of baseball on the front office side is really figuring out how to evaluate talent and how to recognize skills. And so I really did fall in love with player evaluation at that point. And there's a lot of travel involved, which is with anything, but it was a lot of fun. But on the side, I was also keeping my fingers in the pulse on the youth side. And so I started my own business out here, was giving lessons, running camps, etc. And so when I had the opportunity with my son now getting involved in the game, I was being drawn more and more towards coaching and helping in that way. And this opportunity came up and I jumped on it. And it's just, the game itself, sports itself, it's just so cool to be able to work and be able to have a business in sports. And I'm sure you guys can attest to the same thing. You know, we're very blessed to work in sports because, you know, we get to come to work with a passion and something we love. And I think for those kids that, you know, maybe that they don't have the opportunity to play in college or they don't have the opportunity to play professionally, there are tons of opportunities out there, and it's just a matter of putting your head down and working and, you know, making those connections and trying. And sometimes you're going to fail, but finding that one stat or that one impact, you know, report that you can make, and someone catches on, and here you are years later, and you know you're running a front office like you know Theo Epstein was. You know, he was. He didn't play. He has a law degree from USD. So anyway, I know I'm good at doing this, guys. So sorry if I went on a tangent, but there are tons of opportunities, and it's just a matter of being willing and open to travel and adjust as you go.
So let's talk about Team Steel and the growth of Team Steel, and you know, what's coming up next. You know, what does the future look like for Team Steel? And you know, I know we have some exciting news to share this week, and you know, let our listeners know what's going on and the latest.
Yeah, I'm super excited. You know, we just we've officially, you know, partnered up with NBSA here in Texas, which is in McKinney. McKinney Baseball and Softball Association, which is right down the street from me, which I am really excited about. So we're going to have our tryouts coming up here soon. We're going to get Team Steel Texas off the ground, and which will be a huge boost for us nationally in the hotbed of Texas. You know, with the hotbed of baseball being, you know, SoCal, Texas, Florida. I'm super excited to be able to help get it off the ground. And you know, without saying excited too much, it's an awesome opportunity that I can't wait to get rolling on.
I know we definitely share that enthusiasm. We're excited to launch baseball and softball in another state, and especially in Texas, like you said, a massive hotbed, especially in that Dallas-Fort Worth area. So great work on that. We're excited to launch Team Steel Texas. It's kind of a tongue twister there.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, no, it's super exciting. All, you know, where we're located too, it's just a hotbed for sports in general. So I know a lot of the parents are excited. I know NBSA is excited. It's going to be super cool. So thank you guys for your support throughout it too.
Gary, we can't thank you enough. We appreciate you joining us, talking a little baseball, a little soccer as well. We appreciate your expertise on that front as well, for sure. But Martin, let me tee you up. Do you have a stat of the day for us?
I do have a stat of the day. I wanted to go as we had Gary on and listening to his, you know, awesome story, and obviously being the leader of Team Steel here at Steel Sports around the country. I wanted to go with the baseball stat, so I'm going to go with the stat of 16.7 million. And that is in 2023, baseball participation in the United States reached approximately 16.7 million individuals, making it the highest level recorded since 2008. So this surge reflects a growing interest in the sports among youth and adults. So certainly trending in the right direction, you know, for youth baseball. So hopefully we can continue to see that grow over the next few years as well. So yeah, Gary, really appreciate you being on the Steel Sports Show. Thank you for your story. Please don't forget to check out Gary's article, you know, and how baseball changed his life. You listen to a little bit here. It's a great read. We appreciate you being on the show. Nathan, we will see you in a couple of weeks. Thank you for being the excellent co-host you are, and we will see you all soon. And to all listeners, take care. We'll see you soon. Thanks.